Hey there, it's Karl Isenburg at Isenburg Residential here with part 10 and 11 of the Wealth Series, Saturday morning on Super Bowl weekend. So you may be watching this video, you know, a year from now, who knows, but it's 2023, February 12th or February 11th. And we're going through the Wealth Series, episode 10 and 11. We got our Facebook group here. There's not a ton of us here, but thank you for those of you that are logged in, and please throw your questions at me in the chat. And my co-host Sherry is looking at them, so she'll give me a heads up if questions come in. And so I'm going to take a moment and say time out. Okay. The Wealth Series is starting to move a little quicker, and they're throwing a lot of stuff at us. Molly from Charles Schwab talks about financial instruments. I know people whose eyes roll back in their head when you even mention the words financial instruments, and they want to know if they could play a tune on it, right? So the point is, don't overstress. This is just, you need to know what this stuff means, right? You may only be spending, $500 or $100 or $75 less than you make a month. All right. And you have bills and debts that you got to pay for. So you may be going back to, how am I going to, what percentage and percentage and percentage. And so, well, even if you're doing the 70-30 or the 80-20 or the 90-10-10, whatever model you're flowing with in terms of how you're putting that extra money aside, the time will come. The time will come. So it's important that you do this. And a reminder, if you have not done session 1 and 2, if you're just listening to the recordings, or you're not doing, I've got the workbook, right? I've printed out all the information. I go through and I make notes. 10 and 11, I'm going to go back and have to do it again because it was a lot. Okay. And even though I intuitively understand what a cap rate is, and do I understand cash on cash? Yes, but I'm also in the real estate industry. That's what I do. I help people with that stuff, but you got to get it. What does it mean? Right. So reread it, re-listen to it. It's not a bad thing. All right. And Ben takes the time, and they take the time to go through and help you with this and find the financial instrument conversation. The thing that I like, the whole money in, money out thing, was a conversation about, there's only 4 places your money can go. There's only 4. All right. You can spend it. All right. You can give it away to people that you care about. You can give it to charity, or you can give it to the government. I mean, that's when you have money, right? Once you have money, where's it going to go, right? And so those are the things that help you, and a financial advisor helps you with those first 3, right? And it also talks about diversification. We all want to be, so many people are like, I'm going to go all in. When you go all in on something, that doesn't help you, right? In stocks and bonds, you need real estate, you need a variety of different things. And then they give the financial instruments advanced. Okay, when you're listening to it, it's 29 minutes and 39 seconds into the podcast. They start talking about this, and this form. I'm not even going to go there. I mean, it's interesting when you look at where the different assets and the asset class returns are. I mean, it's interesting, but just know that you're not alone. Okay, and if anyone's got any questions, let me know. I don't see anything in chat, so everyone's cool. And then we talk about what a municipal bond is, and how does your portfolio going to look, and what are you going to put together. So this is a really important session to get back to the basics of what are financial instruments, what do they mean, and how is that going to work, how do I find a company, and what sector are they in, and just those are important questions and important things to do. And then this one quote: invest for the long haul, don't get too greedy, and don't get too scared. So those, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on part 10 because I have to go back and re-listen to it again. And I'm sure you might as well. But does anybody have any specific questions? Because first off, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm a realtor. But is there questions anyone has? Okay, awesome. That means I get to move right on to session 11. Oh, yes. That's good. Someone just said they have a referral for me for their financial advisor. That would be fantastic. Please send that to me, and we would like to help that financial advisor grow their business by referring them out as well. Okay. So now we move to real estate investing. This is something I actually know about because that's what I do. But the problem is too oftentimes, I have heard it so many times, people that buy a house and they sell it because we want a better lifestyle. One of the reasons we're moving is we have children, we have a dog, we need a yard, we want this. So we're spending our money on our personal lifestyle, which, that's not horrible, right? We go through this thing once, so you might as well enjoy the life that you have. I agree with that. On the other hand, it's nice to enjoy, your life later on. And, I threw the dice several times in my life, had huge wins and devastating losses. And because of those devastating losses, I'm still in catch-up mode in a lot of places, which was the risk that I took. And I'm okay with that. But a lot of people that took a more cautious approach to where they didn't. And in hindsight, I shouldn't have gambled everything on certain business ventures and things, but that's okay. All right. Because I can't go back. I can only go forward. And I think the average, it's 64 and a half years. I mean, in terms of the average retirement age in America for a man, and a woman's a few years less, but it creeps on, and people are living much longer. Right. So it's not unreasonable to think that you're going to live to 100. And so let's say you're 35 years old right now. You go, oh, that's in the future. But if you're at 60 and you live to 100, that's 40 years. How is that 40 years going to feel? Right. And, it's going to be different. And at that time, but you need to think about that. And this course helps put things in place so that you can live a wonderful life, a life worth living. Right. So real estate, it's, and Ben talks about this. I would never, ever, ever, because Ben's expertise surpasses mine so much. But I've seen a lot of my clients become multimillionaires through the simple act of buying a home. Then they go buy another home, and they rent the one that they had out. It's slow in the beginning, but it starts to it grows to an expanse that's just unbelievable. Okay. But the other idea is with the cash on cash return conversation, and he uses $10,000 as an example. If Bob invested $10,000 in the stock market and that investment went up 20%, that's a big number, right? Well, gosh, that's now worth $12,000. And if someone says, hey, I'm getting a 20% return on my investment, people are like, wow, that's awesome. Right. So, but let's say, okay, that he bought a $300,000 property and was able to get away with putting $10,000 down, just for conversation. So he'd buy a primary home, right? And within a year, okay, we've had these 30-20% appreciation. Then you've got, depreciation. A real estate market does this, but on average, over time, 4%. That's pretty normal. So people think that's boring. 4%. Why would I do 4% appreciation on this friggin' real estate asset when I could be making 20 or more over here in the stock market? Well, you kind of need to do both, frankly. And one of the main reasons for that is if you took that $10,000 and it was a down payment on a $300,000 home, okay, and it appreciated 4%, okay, now that means the property's value increased $12,000, right? Now remember, though, it was leveraged. Bob only put $10,000 down. So that's what you call cash on cash. $10,000 equated to a $12,000 return. Okay. That's 120%. So the question is, do you think the 20% or the 120% is better? And so that was just kind of an example he gave. And then he talked about the concept of buying a home. Just the first thing you do is buy your own home. Then once you've bought that home, buy another home and rent the one you lived in out to someone else. And you do it again, wash, rinse, and repeat. I mean, that is a great way to do that. And that's where Ben comes up with his 5-year, his 5-home, 30-year financial model. It's solid. It's what I want my kids to do. And it's what I want any person that is, looking to retire in 30 years. it's a no-brainer. Okay. Then he has a 10-home 30-year financial model. And it's just amazing. And then he talks about cap rate. Okay, once again, financial models, people's eyes roll back in their heads. I know people that their eyes roll back in their head when you talk about a cap rate. Well, I don't know what a cap rate is. All it is an index. I don't know what what is the term that he uses for that? But it's essentially all it is. Okay, is net operating income. What does that mean? It means the money I made on my rental property. How much income did I get? Okay, right, and minus your operating expenses. So pretty simple numbers to figure out. Okay, we're not talking about taxes. We're not talking about depreciation. We're not talking about any of that. That's that's the expected income, expected expenses. You divide the one into the other to get the cap rate. Okay, and he makes a really good case that it depends on where you're at. Every location is different. There's indications where a 4% cap rate is fantastic, and other where like a minimum. I don't want to buy anything that doesn't have at least a 4% cap rate. That's a return on investment, right? And then there's other areas where you need to have a 10% cap rate because of lack of growth and things like that. So or the market demand is way off. So those are important thoughts, and he gives you some exercises in the book on how to figure that out. What does that mean? Then he goes in and talks about, because that's return on investment. That's the true investment, right? Then he talks about cash on cash. How do you figure out that? That's cash flow. Okay, divided by total cash investment. I mean, the cash that came in and the cash I had to come up with to get that cash to come in gets to me that cash on cash return. Okay, so that's where he goes through the owner occupied model, and he explains how that's going to work and how a non-owner occupied work, because you got to need a higher percentage down to do a non-owner occupied. And he spends a lot of time on that. I'm not going to restate this. If anyone has any questions or doesn't understand it, please let me know. I will help you because it's fun. I love this stuff. Okay. And the reality is, we can talk about all these get rich quick schemes and all these things that can do, but the fastest way to build wealth, and frankly, one of the best ways, okay, and the easiest way to build wealth is to buy owner occupied homes and then purchase 5 to 10 of them. I mean, that's straightforward. It's what you do. Okay, because when you're buying owner occupied, the government's helping you. You get to be able to put less money down. You get a better interest rate. And then when you've transitioned, you still have that interest rate. So those are very straightforward. I mean, there's lots of things out there on how to do that. And he gives a nice little reading list at the end of the workbook and talks about it as well. Books, real estate investing books that are really good books to read. Because once again, Ben's not trying to pretend that he knows it all. He's just trying to make this thing make some sense, so you're not jumping all over the board. Let me read this. This book is fantastic, but maybe it's only just this part of the overall picture. The Wealth series is about the overall picture, and I applaud you for doing this. Thank you so much for tuning in, and let me know what questions you got. Can't wait to talk to you soon. Have a wonderful day, and let's keep on keeping on with our Wealth series.